Liverpool have beaten Arsenal in the biggest game of the season so far. Two teams that you believe, certainly from a defensive point of view, are going to be going all the way this season. And that kind of was there to be seen, let's be honest. When we look at the stats, 0.45, expected goals to 0.55. And it was a moment of magic from Dominik Szoboszlai to make the difference. I want to touch on this momentum bar at some point. And I've got, look, good grief. I have got so many bloody notes I am ready to dive into, and I will be doing that in detail in terms of a key tactical reason as to why Liverpool were able to get the better of this Arsenal side. But let's talk about the 5 things that I feel like I learned from this game, and it's going to be a lot about personnel. There are some players that I think there are huge question marks around them right now, and there's a big question that I think Arteta needs to answer, and we need to see that answer in the next few weeks if they are going to do what they are capable of doing when it comes to that defence. And again, when it comes to this, that first half was steady, it was effective. You can see, obviously, they were kind of, yes, they were in the ascendancy, but there was just so much missing in terms of that threat through the middle. But this video needs to be about a good few of these Liverpool players. There is 2 question marks, I think I would say, over a couple of players still. One which feels dangerous to say, but I'm going to say it because here on the More James Allcott channel, we talk about ourselves in the third person, like I just did there, but we're also able to have a great conversation. And the response from the comments from the Liverpool-Newcastle game were great. So let's keep that going because I love reading your comments and getting your views on it, your feedback on what you're seeing. So we'll get to that. But let's talk about the greatness of the guys that didn't sign for the club this year. There's been so much talk about, understandably, and we all fall for it. And I've kind of gone maybe a little bit too far the other way in the sense of it's going to be a real problem for those players that, or for teams that have too many players coming in. But this team, the glue that is provided by the guys that have been there and done it, and in Gravenberch, wowee, we'll get to him. But in terms of the signings, first of all, there's only 2 players, actually. Ekitike didn't do much wrong, but because of how Liverpool didn't overly get through the middle of this Arsenal team that's defensively very, very sound, he didn't get on the ball too much. Florian Wirtz, I thought, struggled. Really, really struggled in the first half. We can come back to that discussion, but let's talk about the good. And that back line, I thought, was absolutely superb. And Joe Gomez, when he came on as well, I think deserves a shout. I thought he came on and did absolutely brilliantly. Konate, of course, came off. But Gravenberch, I call it even a back 5, because in terms of dropping deep, that is what happened. And I will be touching that on the JLA channel. This back 5 when in possession that both teams did, but there was one clear difference between the two, in my opinion. That actually led to the goal. But here's a question for you. Dominik Szoboszlai. Is he the most important player for Liverpool right now? I think, for me, right now, there's 3. It's Gravenberch, it's Van Dijk, and it's Szoboszlai. But I think for the context that we're in right now, I'm going to probably say context a lot in this one because I think the same goes for Arsenal. To have to come in and be that right back, this is a guy who's had to be this guy as well. And, like Gravenberch, and doing it in a different way, which we'll touch on in the JLA video, having to drop deep, but also, lovely little gorgeous dummies to get you the winner in the last minute against Newcastle. This guy is contributing to Liverpool right now. And sometimes it's going to be ugly. And there is one really interesting tactical element here about the build-up of these two teams and the cautiousness of Arsenal in this game, and will it be for the rest of the season? And that, for me, will cost them. But this Liverpool team, with the likes of Szoboszlai, who doesn't probably want to play as a right back, to be able to step in and grow as much as he did, in my opinion, I think maybe against a better opponent in Newcastle in that first half, I thought it was a lot. And I thought the atmosphere was a lot. Away from home as well, a big thing. But I thought in this game, I thought he was absolutely outstanding. Sometimes stepping in and helping with those rotations. Of course, scoring the goal. And do you know what? Liverpool fans, enjoy this one. Hang on. I thought he was fantastic. And in terms of just, as I say, contributing to the game. That is what it comes down to at the end of it. We can talk about everything else until we're blue in the face. But not just what you're doing, but how you're doing it. Just being coached and doing the rotations because you're supposed to do it, and being careful and having a high pass percentage, that's not enough. Affect the game. And that free kick was absolutely outstanding, worthy of winning any game. And it's one of those ones, and it is it's a cliche, but get it done. Win the game. Be the difference. That's what Dominik Szoboszlai has done in the last 2 games. And we would be talking about Liverpool in a very different light going into this international break. If you don't have that energy to get in the box for in the Newcastle game and to be clever and to let that ball run for Ngumoa to score that first one, and then in this instance to step up and wallop one in the way that he did, like truly unstoppable. I also learned that Virgil van Dijk is doing a hell of a lot this season. I think this is the most active we've seen Virgil van Dijk. The way that he's driving, and I might touch on this in the video tomorrow, but I'll talk to you guys about it now as well. What's happening a hell of a lot is that with 3, let me just take this off. And if you want to get the tactics board, links in the description. You can use it for free, or you can get the bells and whistles like I've got right here, and you can get stuck in. A lot of the time with this build-up and this idea of kind of bringing an extra player, it means that the opportunity to get around a 4-4-2 mid-block often comes, let's just set it up here, often comes by overloading that 4. And by doing that, what you often need to do, and I'm seeing Virgil van Dijk do it a lot, he's driving in here, and then Kerkez is just sort of off on the side for him to drag players in and then pop a little player off, just to kind of loosen it up and find a way around this team. And he's doing it a lot. He's doing a lot of dribbling. He's doing a lot of forward passing. It's his fantastic forward pass that, of course, leads to the goal. And it looks simple and easy, but it's someone who just sees it and plays it. And it feels like I'm seeing that less and less. That skill to be able to see a pass and play it. Don't think about it. Don't be afraid. That is a huge thing that Virgil van Dijk has. I would have some concerns over the longevity of him this season, because I think he's doing more than he's probably had to do in a long time. And he's had the Gordon tackle. He's had a lot going on. But I've got to say, I thought he was absolutely outstanding in this one. Again, big headers. You know, what a great example of it. That last header right at the end of the game when you've got, you've got your backs against the wall and you've got to step up. And he is just outrageously good for this team. And again, when you're talking about the glue of this team, when there's so much change occurring, Virgil van Dijk, I thought, was absolutely outstanding for this team. Gravenberch was brilliant as well. McAllister, all the guys that have not been there, that have been there time and again, stepping up in a big game when it is ugly. If it's ugly, well, let's just get through it. And I will say this Arsenal team wasn't really hurting Liverpool enough for several reasons. But stuck to task, Liverpool, and it can't always be pretty. And when it's not, to have those kind of players that are willing to step up for you, it's huge. Third player I want to talk about, who I thought came of age a bit today, kind of needed a performance like this. And what I will say is, because he's not offering, this is a comment I made earlier in the week, is that a player like this, when he's doing the role he's doing, there aren't that many plaudits really available to him because he's got a sacrificial player. But in terms of that one-on-one defensive side of it, I thought Kerkez stepped up to the table massively. From an attacking point of view, Madueke felt like the only real attacking threat for Arsenal in this one. And I think that's shown by the average positions, if I can go and find them. Let's go and find them quickly. Because you can see that Madueke was the one that went and went and went and went. There you go. There for all to see. Madueke trying to get at him constantly. And I don't think Madueke had a bad game at all. But did he get past him? Not really. And he attacked at pace. I have no critique to give to Madueke. I thought he affected the game. And as you can see from the heat map there, he's able to get into that area. But Kerkez stood really, really strong. And defensively, he can be a little bit erratic at times. I thought today really, really stepped up, was fantastic. And that defensive side of it, for me, is going to be a huge, huge part of Kerkez being a success at Liverpool. And so the question marks have been about that back four. But that team today, with having someone like Gravenberch in there alongside McAllister, I think you had such bite in that team in a game that needed a lot of bite. So overall, a really good game. And Arsenal weren't awful. I've got Ben White here, haven't I? I bet you've all been screaming about that throughout the video. Don't worry about that. We can change that straight away. Timbo. There he is. Don't worry. Arsenal, look, defensively solid. We know that's what they're going to get. And unfortunate, like Arsenal fans, talk to me. How are you feeling? Can you let this one slide in the sense of, in the first half you were comfortable. They weren't hurting you. Overall, their XG was pretty low. It was a good it was a good away performance, and it's an away performance that maybe last year, maybe the year before that, prior to this, when it's this now or never tag that Arsenal have got right now, it's one where you would have been like, do you know what, I've been unlucky here. It's just a moment of magic and a great strike. I think the defeat makes you kind of start to look at it slightly differently. But, I mean, I think it's a fair point, what I'm saying there. So I'm intrigued to know what you want to have to say when it comes to this discussion over Arsenal's performance here. I thought, going forward, it felt a little bit toothless. There were some of the good moments from Gyökeres in terms of being that battering ram. There's a moment where I think there's a long ball, and Gyökeres just goes into Konate, doesn't even get the ball, but this is when Eze's come on. And Eze then, the ball sort of bounces over the top of him, I think, and Eze gets himself in there. No, we're not great at Eze. Yeah, we'll do it. I'll pop it in a minute. But Gyökeres, overall, I think Konate enjoyed that challenge and kind of pocketed him generally. I don't think he had much help alongside with him. I thought the final pass to him was difficult a lot of the time. We had Rice and Zubimendi kind of working together, but actually, again, similar thing. It was actually this way around. Rice stepping in here to, again, get around that 4-4-2 mid-block, and Zubimendi being left alone on his own. Let's talk question marks in terms of what I learned here. Because there are some players here that I feel are struggling. And there's some other players that I feel like are really nailing down their positions. Let's talk Arsenal for a second. I think Calafiori, he is the left back right now. I think he's got an energy about him and an attacking verve to him that's nice to see. Question marks. I don't think Zubimendi's really fulfilled what you want from him as of yet. But I think there's a bigger problem at play. And that bigger problem for me is these areas here. Or maybe do it this way. These half spaces are not being filled by players brave enough to get on the ball, in my opinion. And that is a huge problem. And so when we're talking about personnel right now, Merino, I think, can you play him in these big games? That is a question. Anyone can change and it can all be fixed, right? But in these areas, when you need players to be able to get in those areas of the pitch, can Merino do that? And I think we have to talk about Martinelli. I think, does Martinelli need an Eze to step into these areas here to allow him to be on that last line of defence? Because I think at the moment he's just so far away. And then we're seeing these long pings from Mascara, who came on, did okay, I think, pretty poor on the ball. But those long balls, which was to target Szoboszlai, who did fantastically, I thought, throughout. But Martinelli has got to do more. We'll break that down in more detail because there are some clear moments where his decision-making is just not at it right now. I think he feels a little bit isolated and he needs a lot of help. Will Eze provide that? I think it can, but that was a poor performance from Martinelli in the few moments that he had. So, yeah, question marks on Martinelli for me, for sure. From the Liverpool side of it, can I chuck it out there? I don't think Wirtz has hit the heights yet, but I thought he grew in the second half of that game for sure. And you can see those moments where he gets it and zips in that pass and moves it forward. And I think he can get the ball more. So I don't really want to get at him at all, especially after a solid victory. And I do think he grew into the game in the second half. The man I'm going to talk about, you're not going to like this, but again, I think we can have this conversation, right? So talk to me. Salah. I thought Salah was really bad today. I thought there were moments when he could have played a better pass for the team, a quicker pass, a more careful pass. And the thing I would say is that, so he averages about 49 touches a game. I think he had 33 touches in this game. And I think that might be hurting him a little bit. The fact that he's not getting the ball as much as he normally does, I think is hurting him when he does get it. He's sort of going, I've got to do something. And his first touch, I thought, let him down on numerous occasions. And Wirtz had those moments where, again, if something doesn't come to fruition, it kind of gets erased from the good moment that Wirtz provided, for example. And Salah, of course, being that final man, he needs to help provide that. I think he's sort of, he's not, it doesn't seem himself at the moment. My son's screaming for me, shouting, Daddy. I love you too. We'll leave that in. Okay. Not soundproofed yet. Smash the like button if that was cool. I thought that was. Anyway, Salah. I think there are a few question marks on him in terms of his involvement. And is that going to hurt him? Is there going to be sort of like a rust or a pressure that builds from that? Look, 4 months ago we were saying he's in the conversation for being a Premier League GOAT. So let's not get too far. Let's not go too far with it, right? But I thought Salah, there's a question mark over him this season. I think he'll still get goals, but I thought today was, a bit of a disappointing one in a big game. And I think he's got a great record against Arsenal as well. Let's talk about the big question for me then. The big one. Should Eze have started? For me, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, he shouldn't have started. And I'll tell you why. I can't believe I'm even saying this. But what I will say, hindsight's 2020, but check this out. This is the momentum bar. So let's remember the decision gets made here at halftime. So going into that half time, Arsenal have had a good solid half, right? There's nothing to be overly worried about. And another thing I learned from this game is outswingers aren't going to work for Arsenal, are they? I think they had 4 last season. This season, in this game, they had at least 4. So that didn't work for them. But they were gently building pressure, getting corners, and they've scored so many corners, haven't they? So from that point of view, when you have to make that decision in this moment here, I don't hate the fact that they kept Marino on. Because as I say, context is everything, hindsight is everything. This bit is the problem for me. So this is the second half. I think you've seen quite clear domination from Liverpool, in that second half. And Arsenal were not creating. And so Eze, for me, had to come on earlier. And so I think you can throw those blanket statements of bad mentality. I mean, are we really questioning Arteta's mentality to win, to want to win? I don't doubt that. The process of how he does that, that's the different thing. I think he's leaning and banking on his back 4. And I think that's understandable in a game away. And some people were saying it was a must-win game. I don't think it was. I don't think that pressure is helpful to this Arsenal team. But what I would say is that once Liverpool are starting to dominate, as you can see there from that momentum bar, I think you've got to change that quicker. And I think you've got to get Eze on the pitch quicker. And I actually think that Eze could and maybe should, in time, replace maybe Odegaard on that right-hand side. Because what I'm seeing from Odegaard, which I'll go into detail in the video, it's not acceptable, in my opinion. It's just not. If you're trying to go and win games, because you've got to be able to get inside a block and you've got to be brave enough to stand inside that block, especially when you need a goal, because that's going to be the difference. And that probably was the difference between Liverpool, is you had a team that was wholeheartedly about winning the game and a confidence and bravery to do that and an understanding of how you were going to start to hurt a team. With Arsenal, it was about you had players that are too drilled in a different way right now. And so the new signings weren't needed for Liverpool today. The new signings were needed for Arsenal. And I think Eze was needed far, far earlier, because when he did get on the ball, the areas that he was able to get into were just so much better in terms of affecting the game and moving it along and breaking that mid-block and breaking that block of Liverpool. That's where you're going to hurt this team, and that's how Arsenal are going to win the league this year. You have to have players who are willing and brave enough to do it. Yes, Saka's injured, but that defence is strong. So I would say that for Arteta, that taking off the handbrake and or leaning on your defence in the sense of they'll be okay, but let's make sure we can score. That is where maybe there needs to be that slight shift for me, because this wasn't a free-flowing Liverpool team. Vert struggled, and defensively Arsenal looks strong overall. Could they have been braver? And is it bravery when it's you've just bought this lad Eze, you know what he's great at, just give him another 15 extra minutes? That's what I would have done. Would it have made a difference? We'll never know. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. It's got to be a disappointing one for Arsenal, though, because I think it does feel like something was left in the tank, and some of that fearful play is still there in the background. But today was for Liverpool. A performance of champions in the sense of get it done. And some incredible defensive displays, some incredible individual performances, and that will allow a platform for those other guys to feel it out and figure it out. So a huge win for Liverpool. Absolutely massive. Let me know how you're feeling in the comments down below. We're very close to 50k, so subscribe if you would like to. And if you want to see the fallout from all of the weekend's fixtures, the big 6 fixtures from a tactical point of view, make sure you check out the JLA Substack. Links in the description for that as well. Cheers.